What's going on, everybody? It's YG, and welcome back to another episode of Sleeper Sunday. Sleeper Sunday, for those of you that don't know, is a series I came up with showcasing fun, hidden decks you may not know about that can deal quite a bit of damage in the proper hands. We'll be going over a basic deck list, strengths, weaknesses, what can be done to make the deck better, and of course, a few replays to see the deck in action. In today's episode, we're going to be going over the winner of a couple of polls ago, Majespecter. Kinda. So Majespecter is an archetype of wind spellcasters, yes, these are spellcasters, that released in Dimension of Chaos in November of 2015, with their most recent support being from Phantom Nightmare in February 2024. As you can likely guess, they are a pendulum-focused archetype with two different main gimmicks: back row that tributes their own guys for powerful effects, and protection from both targeting and destruction. And a final little fun fact is that this archetype is a part of the Draco Slayer lore, alongside said Draco Slayers, True Dracos, True Kings, Zodiac, Ignite, Crystron, Dynamist, Amorphages. Oh my god, there's way more archetypes in this lore than I originally remembered. Holy shit. To start off this massive, big pile of cards, let's start with Majespecter Raccoon Bunbuku. It is a level 3 wind spellcaster with Pendulum, scale 5, no Pendulum effect. That's another common theme among basically all the Majespecter cards. 200 attack, 900 defense. I'm probably not going to point out too much of the penned aspects like the scale or anything because we'd be here for like a billion years. But Bunbuku has the protection that all the other ones has, saying while it's in your monster zone, your opponent cannot target it with card effects. Also, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. But also, when Bunbuku is normal or special summon, you can add one Majespecter monster from your deck to your hand. This basically kickstarts a lot of your main combos and is probably the best Majespecter to open with. The other ones are a little bit more specific and require more steps, whereas Bunbuku kind of just gets you the thing that you want immediately, which is typically Majespecter Porcupine Yamarashi. It's a level 4, 1500 attack and defense that says during the main phase, if you control a Majespecter quick effect, you can special this card from your hand, and on summon, you can target one Majespecter spell in your graveyard and set it. So Yamarashi is basically just a really easy way to get another Pendulum body on board, slash Majespecter as well if you're playing like the Link monster and stuff, but really it's just there to go into Beyond the Pendulum and other things, whereas its effect to set the thing back from your graveyard doesn't really come up too often unless it's a grind game, because we, well, technically are only on the one Majespecter spell, but like I said, mostly just a really good Pendulum extender. Also being level 4 is pretty helpful. Majespecter Crow Yada on summon adds a Majespecter spell from deck to hand, so basically you will be adding your Majespecter Wind off of this card, whereas Ogama specifically sets it from deck, so this can also set the Majespecter Tempest, which can also be searched by Majespecter Fox QB. Basically, almost all of them do something on summon that gets you advantage, which is pretty good, especially for a Pendulum archetype that really needs to do more things that isn't just Pendulum summon, hope your dudes stick so you can make your Link plays. So it's nice that you get some quote-unquote immediate value. And the final Majespecter monster we play in the main, or at least the actual Majespecter monster, not one that's just kind of technically one, we have Majespecter Unicorn Kirin. You might know this card either by playing against it in the days of it originally being legal, or by knowing it as that one card that was on the ban list for probably way too long for some ungodly reason. But it is a level 6, 2000 attack and defense that doesn't have an effect on summon, but says during either player's turn, you can target a Pendulum monster in your monster zone and one monster your opponent controls, and return them to the hand. Basically just gives you infinite uses of itself while also being pretty solid removal. It is targeting, but it does bounce, which is pretty cool. It's got okay stats and can pretty easily and reliably be pended out. Not so much with your Majespecter cards themselves, but with basically everything else but those. It doesn't really come up to my knowledge in the main combos, but if you can search it off of Bunbuku, it is a welcome piece to your end board. Majespecter Wind came out of their last wave of support along with Majespecter Porcupine, and it says when you activate this card, you can also tribute a Wind spellcaster to special a Majespecter from hand or grave, or if you tributed, you can special one from deck instead. Pretty cool way to like tag out, especially if you're trying to dodge something like, I don't want to say imperm, but like something that would otherwise negate something specific you wanted. So like if they were to have something to negate your Bunbuku that doesn't target or even just remove it, you can just tag it out for free instead. Though really this card is a bit more of an afterthought than like a key combo piece. Alongside Majespecter Tempest, which is their counter trap that says when a monster would be special summoned or a monster effect is activated, tribute a wind spellcaster to negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Basically, it's Solemn Strike, but you also have to tribute a wind spellcaster, but it's not like a hard once per turn or anything. I mean, neither is Strike, but to be fair, again, not something that you're always going to be getting. I mean, a lot of the time in this deck, you actually don't even use the Majespecter cards every single time, but it's just a really welcome piece to the end board if you can fit it. Onto the non-Majespecter cards, of which, as you can see, there are a lot. technically Majesty Pegasus here is a Majespecter card. It says if you have a Draco Slayer or Majespecter card in your other Pendulum Zone, you can add a Draco Slayer pen with a different original name, then that card from the deck to your hand. Then you can destroy one card in your Pendulum Zone. You can only use this effect once per turn. It's always treated as a Majespecter card. Quick effect, you can discard it. Also, for the rest of the turn, your opponent cannot target Draco Slayer monsters you control with card effects. Also, they cannot be destroyed with opponent's card effects. And on summon by the effect of a Draco Slayer card or Pendulum Summon, you can add one failed spell from your deck to your hand, then discard one card. Okay, I'm probably not going to go over every specific effect of all of these cards, especially the Draco Slayers, because we are, again, going to be here for ages in this 60 card pile. But Majesty Pegasus is one of the main cards that you want to get access to, being able to get access to a bunch of different Draco Slayer monsters, as well as getting into your Sky Iris package with your Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, and the targeting protection / destruction protection is pretty solid in certain cases where you want to end on a Draco Slayer card. Dynamite Power Load is a pretty reliable way to special her out from the pen zone, as well as being able to add a Draco Slayer or Dynamist, technically, but I guess we're just playing Draco Slayers, from extra deck if it's tributed to go into the fusion monster. Ignis Phoenix is really, really good, mostly for its monster effect, allowing you to, on destruction, special a Draco Slayer or Ignite monster from deck and treat it as a tuner, which gets you access to Ignis or Prominence if you haven't already, which is pretty massive. And then we have 3 Luster Pendulum, 2 Master Pendulum. Admittedly, I'm not sure the purpose of these cards other than being level 4 Draco Slayers you can pump out really easily and just extra fodder for Ignis or Phoenix, or Ignis or Prominence, sorry. I did take this deck from someone who I will admittedly put in the description. I will promise I will do that. I sometimes forget and it really frustrates me. But it's a guy whose name is like literally Majespecter something, I'm pretty sure. So I figured I could take his deck list like as a good word for Majespecters. But yeah, these cards are mostly, from my experience, just there as additional scales if need be, just kind of like panic buttons in case you run out of other resources. We're also playing a super heavy package, 3 Bike, 3 Wakashi, 2 Big Benkei, and 1 Soul Piercer. These, as always, for most pen decks, are really easy 1-card combos to access, and you won't be like negating its effects too early usually. This is usually going to be in one of your openers because you are technically playing 6 copies of Wakyushi. So yeah, this alongside having access to your normal summon, or even having access to one of your like Draco Slayer cards or something like that, or actually just like Curtain Raiser or anything, is just a super crazy combo that I believe is going to be in the one replay that we have. Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon confused me for a minute, but then I realized the synergy that it has with Sky Iris is incredible, because you are guaranteed access off of this, or to this off of your main combo, using a Majesty Pegasus to add the Sky Iris, and then this can do a lot of things. It can either add a level 8 or lower Dragon Pen from deck to hand, and that includes your Luster Pendulums and stuff, which can be pretty helpful in case you need to get access to a full scale. But more notably, while it's in the pen scale, you can destroy this card to special back Ignister Prominence or Dinoster power, so you can just loop these cards so frequently. And keep in mind, this isn't a hard once per turn. And to completely top it all off, Revolution Dragon is a scale 12, so in a pinch, you can spam out a lot of dragon monsters, like your Luster Pendulum, like your Master Pendulum, stuff like that, to get just a bunch of free bodies on board, which is really helpful. We are finally playing 3 copies of Curtain Raiser for the main engine cards. I mean, it's Pendulum, it's past like 2017, 2018, whatever time this card came out. This card is going to be a mainstay in Pendulum probably for like a billion years, as long as we have cards like Beyond or Electromite in that case, etc, etc. Just really easy free body. We also are actually somehow playing some non-engine. We have 3 copies of Talents, always a solid card, 3 Nib, 3 Droll, 3 Imperm, and a Called By, just to wrap up the main deck. For the extra deck, we are playing, I'm gonna like speedrun most of this, by the way. A lot of this is like completely irrelevant compared to the actual playstyle. It's Pendulum at the end of the day. We are playing Beyond because this is Pendulum. We're playing Pit Knight early specifically for our Promethean Princess combos. Fun fact, did you know that Ignister Prominence is a fire? We are also playing Cross Sheep in case we want to get some more advantage. Spheres because we do end on dragons, sometimes we would like to link off. Trigate Wizard in case we are able to get off a really solid co-link. I don't think I've summoned this card yet though. Exceed the Pendulum because it's Pendulum. The aforementioned Promethean Princess. Zealantis because, hey, did you know that Ignister Prominence isn't a hard once per turn? Hambo Whale for our Prominence plays. And then Firewall Dragon Singularity is probably something I should talk about a little bit actually. This is like the key end board piece for this deck. So this is like the big thing that you are trying to end on. It is a massive Link 6, 3500 attack, gets permanent attack gain, and can target cards your opponent controls or in their grave up to the number of different card types between Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, and Exceeds you control and in your graveyard, and return them to the hand, which is kind of fucking crazy, because as you can see, we are playing Fusions, Synchros, and Exceeds monsters, so this is basically like a guaranteed 3 bounces on top of a guy that's going to get to like 5,000 attack bare minimum, which is really, really huge. Speaking of, we are also playing Dugaris, for basically our main Exceeds target, allows you to either draw stuff or special things back from the grave, or just double something's attack, which isn't going to come out too often, but I can just imagine like a 14,000 attack singularity. We're also playing Baguska because it's a pen deck, and if all our stuff fails, we want to sit on Baguska. Ignister Prominence and Dinosaur Power are the GOATs, specifically Ignister Prominence, and SP because I don't know why she's all the way over here, but we're also playing SP because she's SP. Moving on to the stuff that we don't play in the archetype, Majespecter Cat Nekomata adds a Majespecter card, but only during the end phase, so it's basically just, what's his name, Skarm, but like, you don't want to do that nowadays. Majespecter Draco Ryu was in a different list that the person who I took this list from was playing. This is like their most recent one. It is like this big 60 card pile. They were playing the Majespecter Draco in the other one. However, this card is more so trying to get advantage while your opponent does stuff, as opposed to like actually doing disruptions. And playing Pend, you already get a bunch of advantage just by playing Pend. You just want to end on as many disruptions as possible. Majespecter Orthus Nue, I'm a bit disappointed we didn't get to actually play. The problem is that this card, while it is kind of crazy to think about, I mean, on summon, adding 2 face-up Majespecter Pens from extra deck, and then adding 2 from your deck to your extra deck face-up, I mean, that's just a guaranteed 4 bodies on top of himself. Like, as crazy as that reads, it locks you into Majespecters or Draco Slayers, and you're basically just going to be doing a bunch of stuff to end on, like, Kieran, Draco, stuff like that. So you'd have to do all of this, like, after, you have to do all your other stuff, like, before doing your Nue play, and at that point, I mean, what's the point of the Nue? I mean, you're just doing, again, all the stuff you were already doing, and you might end on, like, one other thing, but by taking up a bunch of extra deck space and playing a bunch more Garnets. It's an insanely cool card. There's just not enough payoff in exactly Majespecter and Draco Slayer, other than literally Kieran in terms of disruptions. And then speaking of disruptions and kind of just the rest of their back row, because we really don't play a lot of their back row, Majespecter Storm says tribute a wind spellcaster, target a monster opponent controls, and shuffle it into the deck. Not terrible removal, but it is on a normal spell, so it's not super great. Majespecter Sonics gives a Majespecter double attack and defense, but it inflicts half damage. It's a battle trick in the year of our Lord 2025. We're not playing this card. Majespecter Cyclone is a quick play, but it destroys the monster instead of shuffling it back into the deck. This card isn't terrible, honestly, but I mean, Majespecter Tempest is just kind of better because you're just negating the effect as well. Majesty's Pegasus allows you to tribute a wind spellcaster to tag out into a different level 4 or lower Majespecter from deck. So this card isn't terrible, really. I mean, Sky Iris is like your main search target, but you could, in theory, search this off of the Majesty Pegasus. However, it's not searchable off of Yada, which is like the big disappointment. I think if this card was searchable off of Yada, I wouldn't mind playing one copy, just to be able to tag out into different Majespecters, Boombuku to guarantee a Kieran, QB to guarantee the Tempest, something like that. Majespecter Gust is a trap that summons a Majespecter from the pen zone. Why is this not a spell? Majespecter Tornado is a just basically Cyclone, but it's a trap that banishes the monster. Again, we don't play Cyclone, so why would we play Tornado, which is objectively worse? And then Majespecter Supercell is a bit more interesting because it's a continuous trap that says while you have a Majespecter card in your pen zone, the activation and effects of your other Majespecter cards activated on your side of the field cannot be negated. And once per turn, you can target 5 Majespecter cards in your graveyard, shuffle all 5 into the deck, and then draw 1 card. This card would have been absolutely amazing on a spell. If this were a continuous spell, 1 copy would not hurt at all. Being able to kind of guarantee a lot of your plays from specifically things that wouldn't otherwise, or that would otherwise affect you through your protection, things like Ash and stuff like that. because they can't be targeted and destroyed. Things like Ash can be really annoying, things like Ghost Bell potentially somehow, just ideas in general. It would also make going second a lot better. And then the recursion, while it won't come up like too often unless you go for the Xyz plays, is still pretty nice to have. I mean, being able to play the grind game is really cool. And having something continuous when you're playing a pen deck, something that you can always have access to when your scales are blocking off a lot of your back row zones otherwise, so you don't have to like pick and choose between disruptions, would be awesome. Unfortunately, it's a trap card, and so it's fucking horrible. Well, I am getting lightheaded yapping about all these pendulum cards. We did only manage to get one replay this time because it is very long. It took so long to actually get replays. Everyone kept scooping every time I did anything at all, if I didn't lose the game, that is. So I did get one replay, but it perfectly shows how strong this deck can be, and it's probably not even, it could just be stronger because I'm not super great with pen decks, except for exactly Abyss Actor I was okay with. But enough yapping, I'm gonna go ahead and get right into the replay. Alright, so that's going to do it for our replay for Majespecters. Again, I apologize that I was only able to manage one, but what a crazy opener. Triple Curtain Raiser, I felt so awkward, but on top of having Wakaushi, I mean, that's basically just guaranteed to win you the game if they have nothing, so that was really sick. And again, I literally was just freeballing that whole combo. I didn't see any combo tutorial on this guy's channel. I just completely came up with that, and we went through basically 2 board breakers. We had like the double Raigeki, which was wild. And I know it wasn't like the strongest deck we went up against, but if we weren't like getting killed by anything really, then we were kind of guaranteed to do something on the next turn regardless, so I see that as an absolute win. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the rest of the Sleeper Sunday quota. We have our strengths, starting with, of course, being a pendulum deck with basically no restrictions outside the Link monster that you don't play, meaning the splash ability is off the charts as you can see here. Be it Kirin and Penmaj or Bunbuku in piles before the support, Majespecter always seems to sneak its way into these sets of piles somewhere or another. Yes, remember this is a Majespecter video. The protection is also absolutely nothing to scoff at. Cards like Imperm and Valor are rendered obsolete by the Majespecter cards, which is really good for your searchers, and even more specific cards, a modern example being like Primite Drill Beam. This practically guarantees setup before your opponent can interact with you outside of very specific things like Ash, something Penda has always had problems with historically. And the back row, while not always a key piece of an end board, can be an unironically devastating jump scare. Like, Searchable Solemn Strike is not something to take lightly if you can afford to leave one of these guys on board. But of course, a deck is not without its weaknesses, starting off by, it's a pendulum deck. Aurora, why'd you put this up as a strength and a weakness? That makes no sense. Well, it's because Pendulum being Pendulum has its strengths and weaknesses. And compared to some other pen decks that have more simplistic playstyles that can surpass them, these big mashup pen decks all lose to the same floodgates and counter cards like Anti-Spell, Quick Scale Removal, even Castorus Shangri Era. And it lacks Electromite and relies on things going smoothly most of the time, despite the crazy combos that it can pull off. And this one's a bit more specific, but as you can see, and might have been thinking about the whole video, this hardly counts as Majespecter. This mostly stems from Majespecter on their own just kind of not doing much outside of enabling combos and tiny buffs in other end boards. The back row's decent, but you can only play 3 at a time due to having scales. Kieran's cool, but that's their only piece of monster interaction. The archetype on its own struggles to really put up any board presence that can contend with most modern decks, which is why playing really strong cards like Niue aren't worth it, because the lock prevents you from doing anything meaningful. So how do I make the deck better? Specifically Majespecter. More monster-based interaction would be pretty good. Kieran is cool, but maybe another Link monster that tributes a Wind Spellcaster to tribute an opponent's monster or something would be cool while staying on brand. Another really strong back row piece could also be pretty massive. Though instead of another one-off disruption, another continuous spell, maybe, with a solid effect would be really cool. What's funny is that the trap is actually really good for a spell card, but is terrible otherwise. And finally, one more good starter card on their own would be really cool. Bumbuku and Yada are both decent enough, but we're in a new age of Yu-Gi-Oh! One that's built on a multiple one-card starter system and the ability to play through disruptions. A new monster that summoned one from deck on summon, but locked you into Majespecters while you control it would be pretty sick to access either the aforementioned potential new extra deck monster that hopefully would not lock you, or access Niue in case you wanted to play it more into the Majespecter lines, especially later on in a turn. Well, I think that's all I can really say about Majespecter. This was a shockingly really short video. I thought this was going to take like a billion years. It helps that the Majespecters kind of have like all of the same effects. I think it's a really cool archetype. I did play around with the new support once Niue came out, and Yamarashi and Wind and stuff like that. I did play like the more pure Majespecter build. It's kind of like comboing off into a whole bunch of nothing. I thought it was really neat. I really like the advantage that it could pull off, but I think that it definitely needs a lot more to like fully compete in the modern day, because as it stands, the Draco Slayer's backs have to be hurting from how much they are hard lifting this archetype. It was pretty cool seeing the combos that the stuff could pull off though. It wasn't like as fun to me as like Abyss Actor was when it comes to Pendulum decks on the Sleeper Sunday series, but it was still pretty fun. But that's just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments below, because that's gonna do it for the video. If you liked it, please sure to leave a like, as I'll split this video and the channel into the YouTube recommended, and if this content were like the rest of my Sleeper Sunday series, then perhaps consider subscribing and turn on notifications if you haven't already, because support channel or anything else, and it's absolutely free. Also, if you want more input on Sleeper Sunday while also supporting me financially, then check out my Patreon down below to see what you can get from my $1 and $5 tiers. The $5 tier especially, allowing you to not only get potential early video access like the Sleeper Sundays, but also suggest decks for Sleeper Sunday to go into the end of month polls. With that being said, I do want to give a really quick apology. I know that this came out like 2 months late. This was supposed to be February Sleeper Sunday, then I completely forgot about it, and then in March I just didn't have the time to, between all the stuff that I was going to, things like the Alestrals Dallas Open, and then my cat had kittens and I had to watch them, literally the day that I was going to record the video. Just so much going on, but I'm finally getting this out. I'm so sorry, but I hope that you all still enjoyed regardless. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.